that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Just a second. My computer has been very slow tonight, everybody. I apologize. This is taking a little bit longer than it should.
There seems to be a problem around here. We've got the same problem at our house with slow internet today.
All right, well, let me a little better. Okay, I think we're rolling. Let's see, I have Ken Whitco.
Here.
James Hairston. Mark Pila.
Here.
Alan Hart.
Here.
Ray Dotson. And Mark Terry.
Here.
Todd Wolf. Right, and then we have Councilmember Mike Brandstetter.
Here.
Chief of Police Mike Zorro. No, I think he waved. Sorry, I was looking down. Assistant Fire Chief Scott Adams. Right. And oh yes, we have the Assistant City Attorney Samantha Johnson with us.
I'm here.
Okay. And we were supposed to have Youth Council, but I don't see them here yet, so I'll just keep watching the attendees and let them in as they come.
So, Joanna, do we have a quorum then? We have
7 people. We have to have 4 to have quorum, right?
And oh yes, I guess I count as a person too.
Yes, you do.
Barely.
Barely, okay. Thanks a lot, appreciate that. Okay, so.
You need to work on that self-esteem there.
Thanks, Mike, I appreciate it. Maybe you can help me, I don't know. All right, let's do approval of minutes. Everybody get a chance to look at those. If there's any comments or changes, otherwise I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I have a comment.
Okay.
Under the chief's report, it said that he was going to report in April to us on Squad 21. And then later on the discussion, we were going to have make a presentation to us at the June meeting. Just so there's no confusion, and it's not on our plan, so we need to add that to our plan. Under unfinished business, it says a second line, Squad 21 update, WPFR to June meeting. And under the chief's report, it says we'll share for the April meeting. Just so there's not some confusion or it needs to go on the plan.
And the only reason I didn't put it on the plan is because it wasn't something that you guys were working on per se, as something that Scott was reporting back to you. So if I misunderstood that.
No, I think that's correct, Joanna. I don't think, I might misunderstand the work plan, but I don't think that's part of the work plan. It's just a topic within our meetings, right?
Okay.
I think it was a nice to see thing per se
Correct.
to show us. It wasn't like on the work plan. Correct.
Okay. I move we accept the minutes as presented.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay, we have a second. First and a second. Oh, man. Did you get that, Joanna?
I did. And
Okay.
I see Ray Dotson joined us, so I'm going to check him off here just so you guys are aware.
I'm checked off, huh? Okay, I accept that status. I apologize.
No worries.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All in favor, say aye. Thank you. I'm
That's all right.
multitasking.
I think my arrival shocked him.
We got thrown off by the extra person here. I don't know what's going on anyway. Okay. Yeah. So all in favor of approval of the minutes as they are, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Nay. Okay. Motion carries. And I'm also trying to find okay, we do have a public comment. I will read into the record. This is from Charles Ames from Lakewood, Washington. Chief, do you have an updates regarding Officer Wiley's investigations, period? Okay, so moving on. City Council Liaison, Councilmember Brandstetter, you got some stuff for us.
Briefly, yes. I'm welcome to the new year. The 2021, right when it's starting off, I was hoping that it would magically be a whole lot better than 2020. We're still haven't quite built up that momentum yet. Maybe when the Chinese New Year, Year of the Ox, starts here in another week, we'll start to actually see a New Year's worth of improvement. I did want to pass on a couple of things that are going on, and particularly with relates to road construction. That this next week, the city is going to be putting out the bid announcement, so that this summer, this section of Gravelly Lake Drive that runs from Washington Boulevard over to the Nyanza intersection near I-5, that roadway is going to be done in the same manner as the other section of Gravelly Lake Drive that was recently redone from 112th up to Washington Boulevard. And that's expected to be a project that takes a year plus, is going to create a period of time of when that section of road will be closed. And they'll end up being some detours in a variety of directions. But that is also the first section of road that is going to have a significant series of roundabouts, and that particular project includes 4 proposed roundabouts, to include one at Nyanza and Gravelly Lake, one at Veterans and Gravelly Lake, one at Washington and Gravelly Lake, and actually one at Interlochen and Washington Boulevard, which is included in this particular phase of the project. And that has some relationship to your work plan. And I wanted to just let you know that is moving forward in that first phase, is fully funded. The second is sort of a non-update about fireworks, which is also on your work plan, in that the city is handed off to the chief and to this group the ideas of fireworks education going forward. There is a fireworks ordinance that don't take effect for another 16 months, that changes the dates and times, and the city council is working on, in the biennial budget, put some money to explore the possibilities of creating a community fireworks display as early as 2022, which, depending upon where it is, will have some public safety connotations, and also some relationship to education in terms of trying to convince folks to partake of that, as opposed to setting off their own to be able to go and do that. So that fireworks thing thus is something that you could anticipate being not just on your annual work plan, but on the work plan for several years to come, as there is an ongoing effort to change community culture around illegal fireworks and fireworks generally. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that when the council was approving work plans, that they added one item to this group's work plan, and that is to review the Lakewood dashboard metrics related to public safety. And Joanna, were you able to capture that slide to be able to display it?
I was not. It wouldn't load on my computer, but Chief Zarro has it. So I think I have to.
Oh, okay, well, the Lakewood dashboard, and if you were to just inquire about it, it's hidden within the city's website, but it is actually a PowerPoint presentation. So if we, and Chief, if we could go back to slide 3. One more, there. So these are the metrics that are in the dashboard as relate to public safety. I guess we could look and note that they're not all green, but that the purpose of asking you to review them is that these metrics have two functions. There's both an internal function and an external function. And the external function was that this is a place for the community to go to look, to sort of see how in certain areas the city is performing, or if not the city performing, how the situation in the city is progressing. They've been in place now for a number of years, and not just the public safety metrics, but some other metrics are all looking to be reviewed to see how well they serve the purpose of informing the public, but also to look to see whether the goals that are established for each one of those metrics, and Chief, maybe we could advance to one of the individual goals. Doesn't matter which one. So if you see, each metric has its own slide, and it has data that is current. There is a box on each one that talks about a city target, and like in this one, the city hasn't set a target for this, but there's some discussion about how it's measured to be able to go and do that. And this particular one has to do with crime rate levels. Could we advance to one that has a target, Chief?
And we see the approval. Yeah, that one. Yep.
Okay, so here's one that goes off, and that it's got a target for both the overall feeling and safety in business neighborhoods to be able to go through and do that. And now, and this is one of those things of whether that 50% and 85% is really the target the city should see, or are there some other ways to measure this other than this every so often survey? And the others, similarly, to look at them, to sort of look at them to see whether the way that they're placed in the dashboard is good, or if there are some adjustments to things. And some of these relate to the police department, but there are also a number of metrics in public safety that relate to the courts. Again, when the city put this on your work plan, asking you to take a look at this and make any recommendations that you would, they didn't put it into any of the topic dates because you need to sort of figure out how you want to address this and what you want to do. And I would also point out that the overall manager of the dashboard has taken a job away from the city, and I'm not sure that the city manager has designated who's got overall responsibility for the entire dashboard, again, which includes areas other than public safety as well. So I just wanted to sort of orient you to what is there, and but the council expectation is that you'll work with the chief and the court administrator to look at and refresh these with both an eye for what would the public like to see being displayed, as well as what internally metrics are valuable to those two departments, and any suggestions. And at some point in the year, later in the year, perhaps provide a report to the council about what your thoughts are, but no time frame. That's subject to any questions. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Where do we find that dashboard?
City of Lakewood.us/Lakewood-dashboard.
If you look at the screen, so this is the website for the city. If you go under government, executive, and then down to dashboard, and that'll take you there.
Can you, Chief, can you just put a link in the chat for us, and then
Sure.
anybody wants to click
Right
on?
there at the top of the slide.
And I'll tell you now, I don't know if it's related to the internet problems we're having, but I had to try a couple different browsers before I could get it to work. So keep that in mind. But I will put that in the chat so you'll have it.
Yeah, I do find that it's easiest to get it to open up when I use Chrome as opposed to some other my browser on my Apple.
All right.
Okay.
Joanna, how do I stop? I can't.
Okay, I'll stop it. I just want to make sure we were done.
Yep.
Okay. We are back.
Did we get the, does anybody see the, oh, there it is. Okay. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Thank you, Councilmember Branstad. Appreciate that information. Next, we have on our agenda
Fire department?
Fire Department comments. Scott Adams, I'm hoping that you're not just hoping that it's 10:30, but that there's a battery out behind you on your clock. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's one of those, things you get where you don't really plug much of a battery in. So I have to kind of like behind it. I don't do a lot of Zooms at home, mostly the evening ones. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for having me. I'll keep my notes brief here. Most of you know we had that fire in Lakewood on January 14th, that SPI fire off 512. Just to give you a little bit of an update, the insurance, actually there were several insurance companies that are investigating this along with us. They still have not determined the cause of it, but the process has been very, very slow, as you can imagine, with all the hazardous materials that were there. A big shout out to all the groups that were involved, certainly Lakewood Police, certainly in helping do that first half a mile evacuation, kind of shelter in place. Chief was there. That's not something that's very easy to do. at a moment's notice, and certainly in that 512 area. Very, very busy over there. But ultimately, we didn't have anybody that was injured. We didn't seem to have any reports of anyone have any inhalation issues. None of the first responders there, police or fire, had any problems. We did have to, because of some of the exposure to some of the chemicals, if you read anything about the fire, SPI produces a polyurethane coating, which is used in bed liners for trucks. And so when that stuff hardens and gets on equipment, there's not a whole lot you can do other than just kind of put it out of service. We were on there for several hours. Then they lifted the half-a-mile evacuation and just kept a shelter in place. But it was just something that was a slow process to make sure that everybody was safe, and they got the fire out. So thank you for Lakewood and Chief Zorro for all the help there. We also, beginning of the year, we hired a bilingual outreach coordinator. His name is Martin Olmos. And he is hired to basically help us with safety messaging. A lot of it is a little bit geared towards Spanish speaking. And so when Council Member Brandstetter talked about 4th of July education, we'd love to work with LPD and the city and trying to get any education that we need to those different Spanish speaking folks. And demographics. We'd love to help out. That's really what we hired him to do. We have a nonprofit arm called West Pierce Cares. We have an AED program. And so we were able to receive some funds on behalf of the recipients of the Larry Saunders Award last month. The Selden family received that award, gave us $1,000, and we're going to purchase an AED and give it back to the city of Lakewood through the Parks Department and place an AED over at Fort Steilacoom Park. And what the fire department does from there is we will register that AED, provide any training for that AED, and provide that info to South Sound, which will update an app called Point Aed. If you guys have heard of it. So if you're out walking over at the park and there's an incident over there, you can pull up this app and it will tell you where the nearest AED is. And so folks over at the park, they could use that, alert folks over there, park staff, and be able to use that AED if that was needed. And the last thing we've been doing, certainly with the schools, is because we can't get into the schools, there's really no public events. We've been doing a monthly newsletter and pushing out through a program that they have called Peach Jar. So we've been doing what we can to stay connected with kids, provide safety messages and things like that. You know, certainly with COVID, not a whole lot has changed, and we're just doing the best that we can until we kind of turn the corner with this stuff. So with that, any questions for me?
Any questions?
None?
I do have one question, Scott. How many AEDs are there that are available? Are you aware?
The Parks Department will now have, I believe this is their 4th one. And so what we do is we'll purchase AEDs and put them out in the community. So it might be, we've identified some money that we want to put an AED over at Chambers Bay Golf course over there. They don't have any that are close. And we take recommendations. So if there's other areas, we've been trying to work with the Parks Department. There's not really a lot of good avenues to put an AED, as you can imagine, just because there's not a good place to put an AED where there's security, unless staff can be there during the day. So really at this point, the best park is going to be over there at Fort Steilacoom Park, over there by the kind of the trailhead for Wahop Lake.
Thank you. That was part of my other thought, was the security of them. Do they become a target if they were just out in the open?
They would, yeah. I mean, people would just, I mean, you can put an alarm on those boxes, but again, if there's nobody there to stop them from taking it, they'll take it all day long and, you know, try to sell it or do whatever they want with it. So.
Okay, thank you. No other comments or questions? Okay, appreciate that. Moving on to Chief Zorro.
All right, thanks everybody. Kind of piggybacking a little bit on Scott's comment about the AED and the being a target for theft. I'd really only worry about the one at Chambers Bay because the unsavory types up in University Place need to be watched. I guess Ray's not paying attention. So I have a few things to go over today. First, I'll address the public comment or question. There isn't anything new to report. I think the last update, they put out weekly updates. The last one with anything of significance was a couple of weeks ago, where they said that they're still waiting on lab results from the state crime lab, and they expect to get that in about 4 weeks from then, which should be about a week or two from now. So once that comes back, I believe the investigation will be close to wrapped up and we can move on from there, and it will go to the prosecutor's office. So that is the only update I have on that. Sort of on a similar topic, the Pierce County Force Investigation Team is up and running. We had almost 60 investigators go through the interview process with our citizen reps. So that's a tremendous amount of work. And for any of you that have ever had to interview anybody for a job, even 1 or 2 people, it can be exhausting, let alone 60. And we were able to coordinate that over the course of 2.5 days and got 60 investigators from around the county that were assigned to the team. What happened next was the commanders for the team got together and kind of divided them up, because there will be no investigation that requires 60 people. So they divided them up into something more manageable, so that each team has kind of an equivalent skill set and experience level, and so it isn't just one team being called out all the time. So that's where that stands. I think it's pretty. It's been a pretty impressive effort by everyone involved to, even though it has been a little bit over a year, when you think about the amount of steps that needed to be taken to get to where we are, it's pretty incredible that we are where we are. But our team is in compliance with the WAC, and I think the last little bit to do is to get some training for them that is actually mandated by the WAC. And I'm confident that we'll have that in the next couple of months. So any questions on PC Fit before I move on? All right. One of the things that I forwarded you all, or had Joanna forward you, was our quarterly report from the 4th quarter last year. I'm presenting this to council on Monday night, but just a couple of highlights. Statistically, I think it's good news. It's, our overall crime rate, we had the second lowest quarter in the last, I think, 3 years in the 4th quarter. So that is significant. Persons crimes, when you look, are down significantly. The only thing that, even property crime for the quarter was down, but we, for all of last year, what we saw driving our property crime and our total crime numbers was vehicle theft and shoplifting. Vehicle theft in particular really spiked in the 3rd quarter for us, and it's not just in Lakewood, that's all over the place. And then we did see thankfully a little drop in the 4th quarter. One of the things that I would attribute that to, and I don't know if I've talked about this last year at a previous presentation, but is COVID and some of the booking restrictions that are placed on us because of COVID. People committing property crimes are not typically those who were accepted by the jail. So if we caught somebody, we had to just let them go. And people that commit property crimes, that's what they do when they're out. So, all these car thieves were out running around with really no consequence and stealing cars just because that's what they do. So we were able to take a little bite out of it. We are the Puget Sound Auto Theft Task Force. That we have a sergeant that's on and supervises it, and a detective actually made a couple of pretty significant arrests of some rings that were around, and worked with the jails to get them booked and prosecuted, or charged. So I think that is certainly a factor in the dip we saw in the fourth quarter, and I'll hopefully be able to see more of that as this year goes on. But that was the driver. We would have a even lower total crime rate if it wasn't for car theft and shoplifting and just general theft. One of the I did include a little bit in the synopsis at the end, just a summary of what we saw. And one of the points that I made at the end there is in the fourth quarter, I looked and our property room took in 126 firearms. That's in October, November, and December. And that's for a variety of reasons. It can be as evidence, as safekeeping, or as a court surrender. But the point being is that there are a lot of guns out there that I'm not making any political statements about that. It's just a fact that our officers come in contact with a lot of people who are armed for one reason or another. And it's worth pointing out. So that's generally it. I'd be happy to answer any questions. You all had the slides earlier today. So if you've got any questions about what you saw, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yes, Alan Hart, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I keep reading on social media about the issue that the Tacoma News Tribune highlighted last weekend about the street racing and blocking off streets and doing donuts. They don't show up in the statistics, but how prevalent is that? And do you have a plan for controlling it?
We do, and thanks for bringing that up, Alan, because that's pretty timely. So that we haven't seen a ton of it here in Lakewood, not like Tacoma and Fife have, and certainly the South King County agencies have been dealing with it for years. But the title street racing is a little misleading because they don't do a lot of racing. They just drive around really fast, and then they'll en masse block an intersection and allow cars in to do donuts in the middle of the intersection. And these are live intersections where traffic's supposed to be going through. So we've seen it a couple times. This last weekend, it was actually a regional emphasis on the part of all law enforcement agencies because we knew an event, and I'll call it that, was going to be held starting in Tacoma, where a large group of these folks were going to come down and try and do this. What we were able to do is kind of meet them wherever they went and dissuade them from engaging in that activity. And eventually, after about 2 hours of trying, they gave up. And it really does. And, I came out Saturday night to watch this. And what I walked away with was it's not hard to manage necessarily, but it is resource intensive because it really does take a regional effort just by virtue of how mobile they are. They were on Saturday night, they were in Tacoma, they were in Fife, they were in Puyallup and Lakewood, unincorporated Pierce County. I think they went up to Edgewood once. So you really have to have a regional effort, and all of the jurisdictions in Pierce County are zeroed in on this, and they're all participating. So it hopefully will kind of fizzle out and not grow beyond what it is now and maybe even go away. But that's what the story was about. And again, don't be misled by the term racing. It's not actually racing, and it's not cruising like you remember back when you were kids, but it is dangerous activity that, puts a lot of people at risk and is very disruptive for people trying to drive through traffic.
Is there any way to take them off the street or cite them enough to hurt them enough to discourage them?
Well, part of the emphasis Saturday night was to cite and arrest anybody that was involved in that activity. And there were several arrests made and several citations issued. So that it usually changes behavior. We will have to see with this group because they've been around. I mean, this activity's been around for a long time. It's just kind of coming down to Pierce County.
Thank you. Any other questions for the chief? I do have a couple of questions real quick for you, Chief. Has the COVID restrictions on bookings been changed? That would be the first one. And then can you give us a typical quarter of what it would be like for firearms recovery or whatever booking or property room take-in?
I can't off the top of my head give you a typical quarter. That's easy enough to look up. I don't think there's anything atypical about this last quarter, but I can certainly look that up and email that out to the group after. As far as the COVID restrictions, they've loosened a little bit in that it's not just a hard and fast rule. The Pierce County Jail, for example, will allow us to talk to a lieutenant, if we have a special circumstance, to kind of plead our case and see about getting a booking. There are some cases where, like Nisqually Jail for our misdemeanors, they're usually pretty good at working with us, but they actually had a couple people in their custody test positive for COVID. And so that really kind of locked things down for us, but that's opening up again too.
What is the story with Nisqually Jail? How badly is that losing that going to hurt us?
Well, that's actually, there's been a change on that. We've had some discussions with the Nisqually Jail, and we're back to booking in there for misdemeanors, and we're working on a new contract. So I think we're back to business as usual there.
Super. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one. Just a comment. The video that the chief had sent out to us, I thought was excellent. And I can't imagine with what's going on today and the negative feeling for our officers, how difficult that must be. So great job. Outstanding job for the police department.
Oh, thanks. I'm kind of the impressive part is that's being shown to, that's part of the mandatory crisis intervention curriculum for police around the state. So we're being, held up as an example for police departments around the state for officer wellness and just that aspect of it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right, thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Moving on to.
I'm going to sign off. So
okay.
Thanks.
Have a great evening.
You too.
I see that our youth council is here. Is this the time we do that? I kind of lost. No, I just I don't see it in the agenda, Joanna.
I must have forgotten to put them back on, and I apologize for that, but we can certainly slide them in right now and let them introduce themselves. My apologies.
No worries, no worries. It happens. So yes, if we could if you have cameras, it'd be awesome if we could see your faces. And like to give us a report.
I'm going to attempt.
Hi. Sorry. It might be a little bit noisy where I'm at, but so I've been actually like working part-time currently, so I haven't been able to attend the most recent council meeting. But as far as I know, we were working on just kind of like bringing the community together. I know like we worked on the Lakewood Parade, and so a lot of our members there were a part of that, and so we were able to just kind of bring some joy to the community during these hard times. As of now, I'm not sure exactly what we're working on or what we're necessarily planning for the future. But for next meeting, I'll go ahead and give you guys like a better update for that.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
Can you tell us how to pronounce your name?
Yeah, Haida.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll look forward to hearing from you next the next meeting. Thanks for being with us. Okay, unfinished business. The first thing we're going to talk about is, am I okay to move on, Joanna? Okay, all right. I just caught a smirk out of the side of my look there. I don't know. Talking about the work plan. You guys just are aware, Councilmember Branstetter already brought up that we added the dashboard to the work plan. What I'd like to just say right off the top while I'm thinking about that, what I'd like all of us to do, and I'd like this to be put in the minutes, Joanna, so that we have this as a task, is that for all of us to review the dashboard and specifically the tabs related to public safety, and then come up with a comment or concern or question or something, and then submit them to Joanna. And I'd like to have them by April, just so we can have an idea of what we're looking at. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Oh, Joanna's, you're not talking because we can't hear you.
Sorry, I'm not. No, the chief was asking me a question before he left for that. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
Clearly, I'm not very good at multitasking. So,
Yeah.
what was the question? I'm sorry.
No, because you were laughing and waving, I was like, oh no, did I ask a wrong thing?
No, I'm so sorry.
No. So just so we, what I'd like to make sure is that all of the members have reviewed the dashboard and sent in their comments to you by the April meeting, before the April meeting, just so we can have them.
Okay, I'm writing that down.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on that.
Yes, sir.
What was the council's directive to specifically address fireworks under that safety, or all safety issues on the dashboard?
Councilmember Branstetter, would you like to address that question?
The desire was to address all of the public safety items that are on the dashboard, and consider whether there are any that should be added, have their goals changed, be measured differently. And I'm not sure that there's actually a dashboard item about fireworks specifically currently.
I don't think there is actually.
So, if that became a dashboard item that you think the public would like to see, that's the sort of thing that you might add. That's it's kind of a blank page, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions about the dashboard? Okay, thank you. Also concerning the work plan, the first thing on the work plan is recruitment. And so in discussions with the Councilmember Branstetter and others, I think with Joanna's comments, even last meeting, I think my recommendation is we really table this subject altogether for now, because there's not really anything that we can do going forward. The council is not actually asking us to find more people. At this point, I feel like we're just spinning our wheels. So I'm not sure exactly. We basically just need to table it and say we'll address that when we can get past COVID, or when the council is actually asking for more people.
I move we table recruitment until the COVID-19 is allows us to do that.
Okay, we have it. A motion to go ahead. Do we have comment, Mr. Hart?
I'll second the motion.
Yeah, I was in the process of recruiting somebody, so.
Who is that? Who's speaking? I couldn't.
Mark Terry. So.
Oh, Mark. Okay.
Yeah, I reached out to her back in December, as a matter of fact, and Joanna provided the packet to her, and I've been discussing with her. She's just been kind of busy with things right now at her work right now and stuff, but I'll address it a little bit more with her, but I think she would be a great member for the council. So she's just, it's because of COVID too. She's been laying low. So we haven't had a chance to really sit down and talk, but anyways, I'll continue to engage her over that and get the packet. The question, I guess, is if once it goes before the city council, are they processing them, or are they just sitting on them for now? So
I'm gonna, Mr. Brandsetter may jump in on and clarify more, but my understanding is she can still turn that in, and
Okay.
Brianna will hold it until the city council tells her that they want to look at applications and open that up again. So she can absolutely still turn that in. They're not reviewing them right now.
okay, all right. I can just tell her. I'll give her that once I get a chance to sit down with her and stuff. So
Okay.
Yeah, I would encourage you to actually have her submit the information, because, when the time comes, that she'll be at the top of the list. It's
Yeah.
worth. So,
But I kind of take the approach of recruitment's a continuous process. It's not just a one-time meeting thing and that's that. I think it's something that we should just continue to look at. And you see a prospective individual, you just go ahead and engage them and do that, but not make it a one-time thing. So I would almost oppose it being tabled per se, and just leave it as an ongoing item that we should be actively engaging. So.
Okay, but so we have a motion and a second on tabling this. So the comment now is we would have to vote on the motion, and then we make the comments or whatever, and then make the vote. So if there's is there any other comments about tabling the recruitment, and then we can take into account for what Mark is suggesting? No other comments? Okay, so the motion is to table it. And so all in favor of tabling recruitment for now until COVID has been.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so ayes have it, and that will carry. We will table recruitment until COVID is, I don't even know what you would say about COVID. Just go
Under
away.
control.
I guess the question is, afterwards the vote's been done, but why are you tabling it? I guess really, what's the driving force behind tabling, other than the fact you cannot process packets? So what you're saying, basically, or what I'm hearing is, you're going to come across somebody that could be a potential candidate. You're going to discuss it, but you're going to. I think what you need to do is define a little bit better about tabling.
I think what the tabling is it's just not going to be under unfinished business. But if somebody approaches one of us as interested, we tell them to go ahead and send the paperwork in. Right?
Okay,
that's what the intent is.
So that's not really tabling it then.
It's removing it from our unfinished business. Maybe
Okay.
that's what the motion should have been.
Let's just move on. I don't think it's exactly clear. Maybe I'm just looking at it or understanding it differently, but I think maybe just something it could be sidebarred or whatever, but yeah, we'll just move on. We'll just go with the vote and everything. But I just, in my heart, my thought is the process is it's a continuous thing. It's not something we table or anything like that, or so we continuously do this. It's not per se unfinished business. It's continuous business.
So let me just answer it, Mark, because this is actually not, it's because we put it in our work plan. We put it on our agenda. And so this is not something we normally have in our agenda. And so when the opportunity for the committee comes up that we need to recruit the members, then we put it back on our agenda. So it's not something that we dismiss outright, but it's not something we focus on. And so right now we have other things to focus on.
Okay. I agree. There are other things to focus on for sure, but okay.
Anyway, I appreciate the sentiment. And so anyway, we are basically take it off our work plan for now, and then move on to the next thing. So then the next thing actually on the work plan, I had asked Mr. Harrison to be here and then kind of talk about some of the things that he's done quite a bit of research on the not the roundabouts. Sorry, that's not the next thing. The roundabouts.
Oh, okay, roundabouts, yes.
Yeah, the roundabout That's another thing we talk about later. Fireworks. I was actually going to bring up the railroad station and Clover. I don't know why I have a hard time with that. Clover Park crossing updates. And I'm not sure where James is tonight, but I asked Joanna to show us a video of something. If you have not seen this, this is why I think that, first of all, it's very right in James's face. It should be kind of for all of us. Did Councilmember Brandstetter have to go? He's gone.
Yeah, I sent you a message. We've lost him and Ray, and I'm not really sure if that's a connectivity issue or if they had to go.
Oh, okay. I see your message. Sorry. But no, Councilmember Brandstetter would have some input on this too. But could you take just a moment then, Joanna, to share that and just show the video?
Yes, I think I have it queued up. Hopefully this works. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and hit play now.
Can't hear it though.
Oh, there it is.
Why a Lodi police officer risking her life to pull a stranded wheelchair user from the cab of a freight train.
She didn't miss a beat. She told reporter Ryan Hill about the heart-stopping save with just seconds to spare. Cells claim, train horn blowing, adrenaline pumping. Veteran Lodi police officer Erica Urea is trying to save this man whose wheelchair is stuck on the rail track from certain death. There's only one thing on her mind.
To me, I didn't think the train was still a ways away. But as I got up to him and I grabbed onto him, I can see the train just approaching, and it was going pretty fast. So I gotta get him off the tracks.
She couldn't get the chair free, so she pulled the man out of his chair as the train barreled towards them.
You know, I was thinking back, like, man, it really felt like the train was right in my face. And then looking back at the video, it practically was right in my face.
As the train flew by, Officer Urea feared the worst.
When I fell to the ground and I heard the noise like the train had crashed into something, my initial thought was I didn't get one more time.
The man who suffered a leg injury and is now in the hospital was saved. This heroic officer tells me it was surreal watching her own body cam footage, never experiencing anything this extreme while wearing the badge.
That's when you start thinking about, okay, this could have happened and that could have happened. And, you know, just like I said, all the different scenarios that go through your head, this kind of just start pouring in.
Now praise is pouring in for her life-saving move. She's a true hero. Probably 99% of all cops would do the same thing, but in that instance, I mean, for her to think and react that quickly was awesome.
You mean I put him in his way to save his life?
But the 14-year veteran doesn't feel heroic.
One of my family members would have been stuck or needed help. I would hope that someone would stop and help them, and that was just a situation.
Instinct and a big heart. Ryan Hill reporting for us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I don't have you. Did all of you see that video before, or have you seen it?
Yes, we saw that. And actually, when that we had somebody from come to the meeting and bring that up to us about that crossing. And James and I originally went out there and took some pictures and stuff. And we've kept that active, and because it's a particular situation, because the street is Lakewood, the crossing area belongs to the railroad. And so we just want to keep that on there. And this video was a fine example. That train was probably going 35 or 40 miles an hour. We're going to have trains going across there at 80 miles an hour. The sight lines in one area there are going to be limited. So if somebody starts across there and that arm comes down and they're trapped there, we could have the same thing there, but the results wouldn't be the same.
Correct. So, and as I understand it, the actual crossing is it state property, not necessarily railroad, but it's,
I think it's the railroad and the DOT,
right.
Control that. So the city really can't, from what I understand, can't say you're going to have to put something in there, but we can keep pressure on them. There's really not a sidewalk. If they would put a kind of a concrete sidewalk and across one end of that crossing or the other for people that were in a wheelchair or pushing a baby buggy or whatever could get across there safely, and it'd make a huge difference. I hate to see somebody get trapped on there, right? Especially now.
So from the information that I got from James also, that there is a list the state comes up with, and this particular crossing somehow didn't make the list, or now I can't remember. I was hoping he'd be here. But anyway, I think you're right, Mark. We need to, I don't know exactly what we can do as a committee other than to just keep bringing it up to the Councilmember Brandstetter, keep showing the videos, I don't know. So are there any ideas?
I guess, is there a way that we could, when the city council meets as a committee, come together there and bubble it up and say, and I agree with Mark, this is obviously, it should be a priority that bubbles up to the top, and maybe we just come there as a committee, maybe even sign a letter or something, maybe write something out and sign a letter as all the committee as a whole, and present that to the city council and say, hey, this is definitely an issue that we want to help prevent an incident from occurring. So
when we have our annual meeting with the city council, we can definitely bring some visibility to again. Although the city council has limited power, they can continue to, again, give the issue visibility at the state level.
Yeah.
I think we've brought that up in our meeting with the council the last two times I think we've been there. Yes. And so the council's aware, but that really gets right back to the same issue. The city doesn't have a lot of power. We had the public works people come to our meeting. We discussed it with them, and they basically said the same thing I just said. Yeah, we'd like to have something done there, but it's out of our hands. So I think the idea is, like Ken just said, we just got to keep the pressure on. And if there's an opportunity comes up where we can put the pressure on them to put something in, we got to start putting the pressure on them.
So, Joanna, would it be appropriate to ask Councilmember Brandstetter to kind of brief us on anything that we can do to, I don't know, not to pressure the council, but rather than just sort of talking about it, I would like to know if there's something physically, is what Mark's suggesting a possibility, or is that just barking up the wrong tree? I'd really like to hear from Mike about that.
We can refresh their memory.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yes, I wrote it down, and I can certainly mention it to the chief, and the two of us can send an email.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Any other discussion about that? Okay, thank you. By the way, and just speaking of the fireworks, fireworks issue is on our plan. Here's what I understand about that is that, first of all, there is an idea that for the next couple of years, so not next year, but then is it 2020? Not this year, but 2022 is when the new ordinance comes into effect. And so the idea was that what we thought about was trying to make sure that we could educate the public on what the new ordinance is. And so there has been some discussion with the council about getting some budget for doing that. And as I recall, the council was not really keen on adding more budget to that, and basically said that the chief has a budget for public information, the police department, so that would be sort of in their wheelhouse. So I wanted to ask if we can ask the chief again, is there a way we can find out if there's any plan for a budget to be used for educating the public from his budget? I don't know. And what is that budget, if anything?
All right. Got that down.
Perfect.
How about the advising the vendors too that sell the fireworks?
Right. Yep. Yeah, that would be all part of that whole public plan. It would be to make sure that all the vendors have the flyers my idea or my thought would be to make sure they all have a flyer they hand out to everybody that buys fireworks at their fireworks stands. And that would help, but that's only part of it. So, okay. Any other comments, questions? I would like to bring up one other thing. Ray, it's good to see you there, young man.
Oh, you didn't have the drawing yet, right? I got back to the drawing.
You won, but you weren't here, so sorry.
Yeah.
Oh. I'm really feeling bad about this electrical thing. Okay, yes, sir. How can I respond to help you?
What about PSAT gear? Do you have any input or anything that you're going to say about that?
Well, I found it useful when you used to be able to go out in public. It's not very useful in my cave. The place that accepted the challenge. They usually like to work in higher numbers to create the data file that leads to the embroidering. So I believe they're still in business, and I believe they still have that. And I haven't talked to them for a while, so I can check if people were interested. Needless to say, in the business environment, doing onesies and twosies isn't very useful unless it's a community spirit thing they want to do. But I had a hat, a jacket, a polo shirt. I found that when I went out to a couple of places that had bigger groups, first I got their attention because they want to know what it said. And then I assured them I wasn't law enforcement or I wasn't the mayor. And they asked why was I wearing that stuff? So I was able to introduce the concept that maybe instead of things getting really bad and everybody boiling over, that ideas could percolate up through a system that exists. And in some cases, it's a good place to try out ideas. A little bit of response to that, but shortly after that, I left the group for a short time off.
Okay. So at this point, we're kind of on a holding pattern because really it might be nice to look at yourself in the mirror with a PSAT hat on, I guess.
I've got an array of my volunteer things that are symbolized by all these embroidered kits. The real thing that fell down last time, because it was about 9 months and there was nobody on the committee even asked for a follow-up. So I saw that as a profound sign of interest.
Thank you. All right. And Joanna, I realized that I probably went right into new business without even talking about. So unfinished business, I just want to know, is there any other input on the work plan? Okay. And we already talked about recruitment, and then I went, and so new business. So I kind of wanted to bring up Ray's the PSAT gear.
I stand ready to accept any inquiries and be part of the solution should there be ones requested.
I think that, just speaking from my perspective, I think you nailed it on the head that it seems an overkill at this point until we actually are out of our houses. So
I guess we could get a mask with the same thing emblazoned on it.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Right.
Okay. Any other new business? We'll preview next meeting, April 7th.
You still say you're going to reach back to recruitment at some point here?
We just did. Do you have a comment?
Well, I have a question. I know we've talked a couple times, or maybe I missed the conclusion of what the ideal configuration is, numbers or mix. I heard possibly targeted mixes to try to reach out to unrepresented entities, and then I heard large numbers were theoretically possible and smaller numbers were what the council wanted to see. So what are we targeting? What are we shooting for?
So were you here when he was not here? Oh, okay. So you were gone when we had the whole discussion about recruitment. So in that discussion, we basically have, because the council is actually not looking to add anybody right now, and it's pretty difficult to go out and recruit in this environment. I believe Mark Terry has done a little bit and has somebody that's interested. So at this point, that person is going to submit their paperwork to Brianna, and then but we have tabled recruitment for the foreseeable future until we're out of the COVID restrictions that really hamper our efforts. And until the council actually is looking to increase or looking for new members, we're sort of fighting against it anyway. So we've tabled.
I apologize for the need for the recap, but I appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. We in this world, we understand that. Okay. Any other comments about the work plan or any tasks that we have to take care of? I think we know that we have some questions to ask of Councilmember Brandstetter, of Chief Zarro. We've got the task for the dashboard that we need to do. And then April 7th, we're going to have a public works presentation on the city lighting and update.
I'll get that scheduled.
Thank you. Anything else about any other new business we need to discuss? Okay, reports from board members and staff, community outreach reports. Anybody at a community outreach? So I know that the other evening the North Lakewood met, but I couldn't get there. So I don't know if Mark or you couldn't get there?
I didn't make it either.
Okay. Okay. Any pending policy or ordinance changes that we need to discuss? I think we lost Samantha somewhere along the way.
Oh, we did.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I got to be honest. I don't know if we're losing people because of technical difficulties or I know lots. I'm getting comments here and there that everybody seems to be experiencing them. So hopefully April goes a little smoother.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
No worries. Okay. Well, is there anything for the good of the order?
Go to the order. I see where the parks, I don't know, the city must have cleaned out all the brush to the north of the cemetery on Stillicum and Lakewood Drive there. And there was a homeless camp in there, but they trimmed all that back and that sure makes a difference. Plus around Seeley Lake, that really looks good and safety wise for people walking by there. That's great.
Public safety through environmental design. Very good.
Yeah. And I think that all got started out of 311, people complaining.
Mm-hmm. I would like to say also that the December parade, I forget what we called that, but that was quite an event. The reverse parade.
I have a comment about that. I was, I don't want this to sound like a slam, but I was a little disappointed in traffic control. I left to go over there and just crossed 100th and sat there for 45 minutes before I got to the four-way stop. And by that time, I thought, all this traffic coming there, I turned around and came home. I got online and came home, but it looked like they needed some type of traffic control to kind of keep the people moving.
Yeah, I would think that the comments that I heard, I actually went and arrived there at 5:30. We got through. It took us about an hour and a half to get from the town hall center sign at that light to turn left. About an hour and a half it took us to get through that. So yeah, I mean, I just don't know if the city actually anticipated how many people were going to do that. I mean, I thought it was awesome because so many people were involved, and I'm all about community, and I thought it was wonderful. And I'm sorry that so many people had to get turned away. It was rough, but anyway.
The intersection of Bridgeport and whatever goes by Safeway there, was just a zoo. There was people coming from the north trying to turn in there, and their traffic was backed up going south. And I thought, this is really a good time to go home.
Oh man, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah.
But I applaud the effort, and I think the city, trying to do something to engage its community, I thought was good, if not a little frustrating. But anyway,
I even took my street rod out of the garage to go, but good. I just thought I ain't sitting here idling for 45 minutes.
Yeah, my gas mileage in my truck went way down during that.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, well, thank you. If there's nothing else, anything else? Okay, well, thank you guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you all in April. Oh, yes, go, Joanna. No, we can't hear you because you aren't talking.
I hate that dumb mute button. Okay, we need motions. We can't just end it.
Oh, I move we adjourn.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Yes, we have a motion to adjourn for you.
I second it.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I say we were adjourned. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Keep
Have a good
straight,
night.
Joanna.
Bye-bye.
Bye.